This happened a few weeks ago. I was really tired after another late night at the office. The neon lights outside blurred together as I waited for my Uber. The car pulled up quickly, no music playing, just a silence that felt odd. I thought it was just one of those quiet nights in the city. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror, I noticed something strange. The driver's reflection shimmered for just a split second. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I brushed it off as tiredness. A few days later, I ordered another ride. The driver was chatty, which I appreciated. He started to tell me about a road trip he took through the mountains. His stories were intense, filled with dark twists and turns, like he was reliving each moment. I felt drawn in, but at the same time, my gut told me something wasn't right. He seemed to know too much about fear. My heart raced as we drove through the flickering streetlights, shadows creeping closer on every side. As I got out, I thought the ride was just a one-off. But then it happened again. The next driver was different. He barely spoke at all. When he did, it felt like he was reading my mind. I mean, who could know how tired I was or the dreams I had? I felt my stomach twist. I glanced up and caught him staring in the mirror. His eyes looked frozen, like he wasn't really there. I asked him a question to break the tension. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he smiled this weird grin, and it didn't feel right. I wanted to look away, but something kept me locked in. I was scared but curious, and as I finally stepped out, my hands were shaking. After that, I couldn't stop thinking about those rides. Each one blended into the next, a blurred mix of reality and nightmare. Then one night I called for another ride. I was anxious but figured it would be okay. As I got in, the driver turned to me and asked, "Why are you avoiding the truth?" I froze. How could he possibly know? I turned to look at him, but when I did, the car was empty. I sat alone in the back seat, my heart pounding. The city lights outside faded, and the silence grew heavy. I realized then that I wasn't sure where I was really headed. I wanted to scream, but I just held my breath instead. I felt trapped, like the walls of the car were closing in on me. Where was this driver? I looked out of the window. The streets looked different. The buildings were faded, almost distorted. Slowly, I turned back to the front. It felt wrong being alone in that car. My phone buzzed, but I didn't want to look. I wanted to believe this was just another ride, that I could get home. But nothing felt normal anymore. Glanced outside again, the lights flickering in and out like some terrible movie. The world blurred. My pulse quickened. I was scared. And then, out of nowhere, I heard a whisper. "You can't escape." I wanted to scream, but there was only silence. I could hardly breathe as I waited for the ride to end. But deep down, I knew it might never end. Suddenly, the car jolted. A sharp turn sent me sliding in my seat, and the world outside spun past like a bad dream. My breath quickened, and I glanced at the dashboard. The GPS screen was flickering, showing roads I didn't recognize. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. This wasn't right. "Where are we going?" I called out, hoping for a response that I knew wouldn't come. I was trapped in a moving box, disconnected from reality. The car lurched again, and I fumbled for my phone. But it had gone dark. No signal, no light. Just me, the empty interior, and the unsettling hum of the engine. I pressed my back against the seat, desperately wishing I could will myself out of this. My mind raced back to those other rides. Each driver had been a piece of a puzzle I couldn't quite see, and now it felt like I was part of a twisted game. The whisper echoed in my thoughts. "You can't escape." I tried to focus on the streets outside, searching for something familiar, but it all looked wrong. The buildings were grimy. The streetlights flickered intermittently, casting shadows that seemed to stretch and pull towards me. Then I saw it, a figure standing in the distance, half hidden by the haze of the streetlights. My heart skipped, and for a moment I thought I recognized him. It couldn't be. Could it? The driver from my previous ride, the one with the knowing smile, stood there. He seemed to be waiting for me. Fear gripped me anew. Why was he just standing around? The car accelerated, pulling me away, and I struggled against the urge to scream. I glanced back, but he was gone, swallowed by the darkness. I was left with nothing but the dread pooling in my stomach. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder. "You haven't faced it yet." Each word wrapped around my mind like a vice. I didn't know what I was avoiding, what truth I was running from. But in that moment, I realized I had to break free, even if it meant confronting something terrifying. As if sensing my thoughts, the car slowed to a halt. I looked out the window to find myself not on a street, but in an eerie void. The lights outside vanished entirely. My heart raced. I felt suspended in nothingness. The silence shattered when the car's engineered roar ceased. I looked around, grappling with confusion and fear. Then, a heartbeat after the silence, I felt it. A presence. Someone was inside the car with me. I turned, and a shadow loomed over. The streetlights flickered back on, casting dim light across the interior. It was him, the driver, but his face was different now, twisted into a grotesque smile that felt hollow. "I told you, you can't escape," he said, his voice echoing. I couldn't breathe. I was frozen, caught in this nightmare again, and I realized the escape I sought was not from the car, but from myself. Just then, a new thought pierced through my fear. That was when I saw it. The door handle was glowing faintly. Could it be a way out? I reached for the glowing handle, heart pounding. My fingers brushed against it, and for a split second, I hesitated. What if this was another trap? But the driver's grin twisted in a way that set off alarms in my mind. He was no longer just a driver. He felt like a jailer. I yanked the door open, the hinges creaking against the light that spilled in like a flood. The darkness outside was thick, but at least it wasn't the confines of the car. I stepped out, ready or not. The moment my foot hit the ground, a chill pierced me. I was in a desolate place, a lot like a forgotten industrial district. Rusted machinery loomed around me, and the air was stale, filled with the scent of decay. I turned to face the driver, but he hadn't followed. Instead, he remained in the car, watching me with those hollow, knowing eyes. "What's going on?" I shouted, voice laced with fear. "What do you want from me?" He didn't reply, only leaned back in the driver's seat, folding his arms and continuing to stare. I felt exposed, standing in the stark light that contrasted so sharply with the oppressive darkness that enveloped the rest of the area. It was like I was on display. I had to find out where I was, or at least what I was up against. I began to move away from the car, cautiously navigating among the chunks of concrete and twisted metal. My mind raced with possibilities. This could be another part of the game. I had to think straight. Then I heard it, a muffled sound, the faintest echo of laughter. It drifted through the stillness, taunting and chilling all at once. I followed the sound, heart racing. It seemed to be coming from an old warehouse at the far end of the lot. As I approached, I noticed something odd. A faint light pulsed within the building's gap where the door hung ajar. Without thinking, I pushed the door open and slipped inside. The interior was dim, illuminated only by the erratic pulse of lights along the walls. But it wasn't just the lights. There they were, figures standing in the shadows. I could make out a couple of faces, all looking at me as if waiting for something. They were the drivers. Each one flickered in and out of focus, like beings caught between worlds. "What is this?" I whispered, backing away. My voice wavered as I recognized the driver from before. "You came back," he said, but his tone felt different. It wasn't threatening, just flat. I gathered my courage. Why did you bring me here?" One of the figures stepped forward, her eyes glinting like shards of icy glass. "You have to confront what you've been hiding from. Only then will you understand." Confront. The word hung heavy in the air. Ignition sparked in my mind. Maybe this was what the whispers had meant. I needed to face reality, however horrifying it might be. The pulsing light flared brighter, and I felt drawn to it. What truth lay behind those shadows? Before I could think further, the ground trembled, and the laughter I heard earlier erupted again, but now it was louder, echoing all around me, scorching my nerves. I took a step back, glancing between the figures and the light. The choice loomed: stay or plunge deeper. Just then, the door slammed shut behind me, sealing my fate. I felt the air grow colder. Whatever was waiting, I knew it wanted me to stay. The laughter enveloped me, wrapping around like a cold, wet blanket. I hesitated, taking a shaky step backward. "What do you want me to confront?" I shouted again, my voice trembling. Silence. The figures only watched, their faces expressionless, but somehow knowing. I scanned the warehouse, desperate to escape the weight of their gaze. The pulsing light drew me in. I could almost see shapes moving within its glow. Shadows flickered, reaching toward me as if eager for connection. "Please," I murmured, almost to myself. I forced my feet forward, inching toward the light. Maybe it would reveal something, some hidden truth that could help me escape this nightmare. Every step felt like a battle against an unseen force pulling me back, my instincts screaming to turn and run. As I neared the light, I felt a warmth wash over me, an odd contrast to the chill that surrounded me. It pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Suddenly, I saw the figures shift. They began to morph and distort, their bodies blending into one another, forming a chaotic mass. I stumbled, feeling dizzy. What was happening? Then I saw it, a vision within the light, a memory. My hands grasped my head as the scene unfolded. I was in a different car, in a different city, and a gentle but urgent voice pleaded with me. "You can't keep ignoring this. You need to face it." I gasped, recognizing the voice. It was mine. It was me talking to someone lost, frightened. The scene twisted and blurred, showing flashes of events buried deep in my mind. Arguments, shattered glass, the taste of salt from tears. "Make it stop!" I yelled, as if my voice could command the shifting reality around me. I involuntarily reached for the light, driven by a compulsion I couldn't control. Then I stumbled back as a figure broke free from the mass, lunging at me. It wasn't one of the drivers, but someone else, someone familiar. My heart sank. "Why did you leave?" The question cut through the chaos, sharp and painful. I recognized those eyes, once filled with kindness, now filled with something else. Anger? Betrayal? I started, but the words choked in my throat. No excuse would suffice. They stepped closer, and suddenly, I felt weightless. Everything went dark, and the laughter faded into silence. I dropped to my knees, gasping. Where had they gone? Before I could gather my thoughts, the pulsing light dimmed, flickering out, leaving me in a stifling darkness. My heart raced, uncertain of what would happen next. In the pitch black, I heard what sounded like shuffling feet, no longer just the driver's ominous presence. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. I wished for the light to return, but the flickering had vanished completely. My chest tightened. I needed to know what was unfolding. Out of the shadows, a voice echoed softly, chilling my blood. "You can't run from this. It's time to face the truth." A cold shiver ran down my spine as the darkness loomed closer. The choices I had made, the person I had become, it all came rushing back with the urgency of an oncoming storm. I felt a surge of dread, knowing the confrontation I feared was now unavoidable. The sound of footsteps crept nearer. I wasn't alone anymore. The footsteps stopped inches from me. I could hear my heart pounding, each beat echoing in my ears. I strained to see through the darkness, but it remained a thick veil, smothering any hope of clarity. "Who are you?" I asked, voice trembling. There was no answer, only a low, slow exhale that washed over me like a sudden gust of cold air. Then, incredibly, a feeble light flickered back to life. It emerged from a small device clutched in the figure's hand. The illumination revealed a face, one I hadn't seen in years. It was my old friend Lisa. But something was off. The shadows under her eyes seemed deeper, the lines on her face sharper. "What happened to you?" I stammered. She studied me with an expression that was both familiar and foreign. "You don't remember," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you chose this." I recoiled slightly, confusion spiraling inside me. "Chose what? Lisa, I don't understand." She stepped closer, the light bouncing off her troubled expression. "You walked away when it mattered. You thought you could escape. You thought you could erase it." A wave of guilt surged through me, and I instinctively took a step back. "I didn't mean to. I was trying to protect us." But my words felt empty. Looking at her, I realized I had failed her, failed us both. "Protect us from what?" she pressed, the intensity in her gaze piercing through my defenses. "From the truth? From the pain?" The shadows in the warehouse seemed to pulse in time.
I felt them tugging at me, pulling my memories to the surface. Images flashed in my mind, nights spent laughing, fights fought, all leading to a single day that changed everything. "Stop! Just stop!" I shouted. Fear began to spill over into desperation. The last thing I wanted was to relive that moment. Suddenly, the dim light flickered, revealing more than just Lisa. A whole crowd of familiar faces emerged from the darkness, their eyes just as knowing, just as piercing. Each one held a piece of my past, and they were all demanding answers. I was engulfed by their presence, each of them representing a part of my life I had tried so hard to forget. "You can't hide, you can't run," they chanted softly, their voices melding into a haunting melody. Panic surged within me. I felt trapped. "I need to leave," I screamed, my voice cracking under the weight of their collective gaze. Then there was silence, a stillness so heavy it felt like the air around me had thickened. I turned to flee, but I stumbled as the ground beneath me shifted. I was plunged into a vortex of images, and the laughter returned, growing louder, more insistent. I caught glimpses of my own face in the crowd. Smiles turned to frowns, each one echoing disappointment. "No, no," I gasped, falling to my knees as the weight of their unresolved anger bore down on me. That's when I realized the truth was not just out there, it was within me. And before I could brace for what that meant, the world around me shattered into pieces, crumbling away like ash beneath my fingertips. I gasped as everything faded into nothingness, leaving me utterly alone. The laughter still echoed, but now it was replaced by the chilling whisper of one question. "What are you going to do now?" Before I could respond, a new sound broke through the silence, a clear, sharp knock, and my heart raced again. I was still in the warehouse, but what or who awaited me on the other side? I hesitated, my breathing rapid and shallow. The knock came again, more urgent this time, snapping me back to the moment. Every instinct told me to run, to hide in the shadows where I could pretend none of this was happening. But my feet felt glued to the ground. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The warehouse sat in heavy silence, as if holding its breath, waiting for the answer. I didn't know what I expected, but it wasn't the voice that responded. "It's me. Let me in." The voice was distorted, echoing off the walls. A chill ran up my spine. It sounded eerily familiar, but the fear mixed with confusion made it impossible to place. I stepped closer to the door, a sense of dread pooling in my stomach. I could still hear the faint echoes of laughter behind me, a reminder of the "I just fled. Please," the voice urged. "I really need your help." There was a moment of hesitation, and then I grasped the cold metal of the door handle. I had to know. I had to see. I turned the handle and pulled it open just slightly. The dim light from inside the warehouse spilled out, illuminating the figure standing on the threshold. It was a man, a face I recognized all too well. "Jake?" I barely managed to say. His eyes were wide, filled with panic and something else I couldn't quite place. "We don't have a lot of time. They're coming." "What do you mean?" My mind struggled to connect the dots. Jake had vanished years ago, swallowed by his own secrets. He wasn't supposed to be here. "There's no time for explanations," he insisted, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone or something to leap out from the shadows. "You're in danger. You have to come with me." Instinctively, I wanted to refuse, but I felt the pressure of the echoes in the warehouse, the weight of my past pressing down. "How do you know I'm in danger? What do you want from me?" His expression darkened, and the tension in the air seemed to thicken. "You don't remember everything, do you? You think you're safe, but you're not. Not anymore." I could see hints of fear in his face, fear that gnawed at my insides. I took a step back. "You're just adding to the confusion, Jake." "Listen," he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. "Lisa's not what you think she is. She's been searching for you. They're all connected, and if you stay here, it won't end well." I trembled at the mention of Lisa. The memories came rushing back, dark and chaotic. Our last encounter, the shattered friendship, the things we could never take back. But what was Jake saying? Why was she searching for me? Before I could think of a response, a loud crash echoed from deeper within the warehouse. My heart raced. Had the crowd come back? Were they ready to confront me again? I turned to face the noise, panic threatening to take over. "Now you see?" Jake urged, gripping my arm tightly. "We need to go. Trust me." His urgency snapped me from my thoughts. I glanced back at the door, and then the shadows moved again, coalescing into forms creeping closer. Time was running out. I felt myself nodding. I didn't fully trust him, but fear demanded action. We rushed into the darkness, leaving the echoes behind us. But as the door slammed shut, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead was just another part of the mystery I'd tried so hard to escape. I barely heard Jake murmur as we fled into the unknown. "You have to remember, it all leads back to you." And as we pushed further into the darkness, I wondered what part of my past would come crashing back next. Darkness felt alive around us, shadows flickering in the corner of my vision as we ran deeper into the warehouse. I pressed close to Jake, unsure of where we were going, but trusting instinct over reason. The air was thick, musty, filled with the scent of rust and forgotten things. "Where's the exit?" I gasped, the adrenaline surging through my veins, pushing panic back for the moment. "Not far," he replied, casting another glance behind us. "But we need to find a way out of here before they catch up." The crash from moments before echoed again, more intense this time, a reminder that we weren't alone. I could feel my heart pound, each thump a reminder of my fear. Who was coming? Was it Lisa or something worse? Jake squeezed my hand, pulling me toward a narrow corridor lined with old crates. "This way," he said, urgency lacing his voice. "Stick close." I tried to keep up, but every muscle in my body felt heavy. My mind raced, chasing fleeting thoughts. How could Jake be here? What did he mean about Lisa? And what did he want from me? The questions blurred together, spiraling out of control. Jake, I whispered sharply, but he didn't respond, his focus fixed ahead. I tugged at his arm, desperately needing answers, but all I got was silence. We ducked behind a stack of crates just as a shadow flitted past us. My breath caught in my throat, the threat suddenly very real. What if they found us? What if it's Lisa? I whispered, fear clawing at the back of my mind. That's exactly what she wants you to think, Jake replied, his voice low. Remember. Just then, another loud crash resonated, followed by a series of hurried footsteps. I could hear them, voices muffled yet sharp. My heart raced and dread pooled in my stomach. Whoever they were, they sounded determined. Get ready to run, Jake said quietly. I nodded, shifting on my feet, panic coursing through me. And then, out of nowhere, I caught a glimpse of something in the dim light, something glinting on the floor at our feet. It took me a moment, but I recognized it. A small silver pendant. My pendant, I blurted out, my voice breaking. How did it get here? Jake's eyes widened. You need to focus. You can't let this distract you. But it was taken from me. I felt the ground shift beneath me, every sense heightened. You don't understand. I never finished my sentence. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, looming larger than life. My breath caught and my pulse quickened as I recognized the very features that haunted my memories. Lisa? I breathed, disbelief weaving through my veins. Why are you hiding? She asked, stepping closer, her voice laced with a chilling calm. The world stopped. The darkness shifted as I processed her presence, a ghost from my past, both a friend and a foe. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I was frozen, caught between what was familiar and the danger lingering just beyond. Come back with me, Lisa said, her tone almost soothing against the growing chaos. I promise it will all make sense. But nothing made sense anymore. A war raged inside me as I backed away, glancing at Jake for support. His expression told me all I needed to know. This wasn't an invitation, it was a trap. And before I could react, another shadow flickered behind her, too familiar to ignore. The feeling of betrayal crashed over me, leaving me stranded on the precipice of an impossible decision. What have you done? I whispered, my heart racing. That was when I saw it, a flicker of movement, a threat emerging from the darkness. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, hoping this was just a nightmare. But as I opened them, the figure grew clearer. It was familiar, yet unsettling, a tall, wiry man with penetrating eyes. I couldn't believe it. Jake, I choked out, desperate for clarity but only receiving confusion. It's him. It's Michael. Lisa's smile turned sinister at my words, and I felt my heart drop. The air around us thinned. I was suffocating under the weight of memories I wished I could forget. Michael doesn't want to see you, she said softly, almost mockingly. He wants to see what you'll do. I backed against the crates, panic swelling inside me. What does that mean? My voice wavered. I glanced to Jake, who moved closer to me, a protective stance. But the uncertainty in his gaze told me we were trapped. He wants you to decide, Lisa continued, to join us or be left behind. She gestures dismissively behind her. You know they're coming, and soon. The shadows shifted again as I heard more footsteps. You need to choose quickly, Lisa urged, stepping closer. This is your moment. Michael's eyes bore into mine, and dread knotted in my gut. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about me. There was a danger lurking, something that extended beyond my own fear. I needed to understand. Why should I trust you? I shot back, my voice rising. You don't care what happens to me. I care more than you think, Lisa replied, her voice now edged with something sharp. Just like I care about getting what was stolen from us. Stolen? My heart raced. What are you talking about?
Then the world shifted again. A crash sounded behind us, and I caught sight of several figures breaking through the entrance we had hoped to escape from. They were heavy-set and moved with a purpose. My breath quickened as the realization sparked. We were out of time. "Run!" Jake shouted, pulling me away from the crates. I didn't have to think. My instincts kicked in, and I sprinted after him. We dashed through the narrow corridor, trying to put as much distance between us and the gathering shadows as possible. I could hear their
Now, a chaotic mix of shouts and laughter. We veered right, dodging debris, keeping low. And as we pressed forward, I spotted another exit. The faint outline of light beckoned us. But just as hope began to surge, I remembered my pendant lying back there, cold and abandoned. It felt linked to this entire nightmare. "Jake, wait!" I called, skidding to a halt. I turned back, horror creeping in at the thought of leaving it behind. "I can't leave without it." "No time," he yelled, urgency in his voice. "We have to go now." That was when I realized how deeply I needed that pendant. It felt like a part of me, an anchor in this chaos. I faltered, torn between instinct and desperation. "Lisa," I shouted, my voice ringing through the echoing darkness. "What do you want from me?" But before I could grasp her response, someone grabbed my arm from behind. I screamed, the grip cold and unyielding. There was no escape anymore. Shadows loomed closer, and as I struggled, the truth began to dawn on me. I wasn't the one in control, and I was about to find out exactly what they intended to do with me. I felt a surge of adrenaline, but it was overshadowed by the grip on my arm. I twisted, trying to free myself, but the fingers tightened like a vice. My gaze shot back to Jake. His face was a mask of panic, and I could see no way out. "Help!" I managed to yell, desperation creeping into my voice. "Let her go!" Jake was shouting, but it was growing dimmer as shadows closed in around us. The figures were almost upon us. With a sudden twist of strength, I yanked my arm away and stumbled forward. I barely kept my footing, but I was free. I scrambled ahead, heart racing wild. Behind me, Jake wasn't far behind, but I could sense the oppressive weight of that presence looming. The figures were closing in fast, their laughter disorienting, a melody of chaos. Then I turned the corner into a room lit by flickering fluorescent lights. It looked like a storage space, with old machinery and boxes stacked to the ceiling. I scanned for a way out, panic throbbing in my chest. I saw an open door at the far end, but before I could fully process it, one of the heavy-set figures lunged at me from the shadows. Instinct kicked in, and I dove sideways, barely evading their grasp. I could hear the air rush past me as I hit the ground, rolling to regain my feet. I pushed myself up and sprinted toward the door, fear sharpening my focus. "Jake!" I shouted again, praying he was right behind me. I bolted through the door and found myself in another narrow hallway. It felt endless, pulsing with uncertainty. I glanced back, expecting to see the figures trailing close. Instead, there was nothing but silence and darkness behind me. The kind of silence
That makes everything more terrifying. "Where are you?" Jake's voice broke through reality, echoing tense and close. "Here," I called back desperately, not wanting to know how long I had before he was engulfed by those shadows. We dashed down the hall, moving instinctively toward what I hoped would be safety. In the back of my mind, I kept replaying Lisa's words. "He wants to see what you'll do." I had to make a choice, but how could I decide anything when my life felt like it was spinning out of control? I paused for a fraction of a second, torn. I needed to get away, but the thought of finding my pendant nagged at me. It was as if a piece of my very soul was left in that room with Michael and Lisa. "Turn left," Jake yelled, breaking my thoughts. He sprinted ahead, and I followed on instinct. Just then, we stumbled upon a small window. It was barred, but it was something. "Maybe we can squeeze through," I blurted out, my breath coming in frantic gasps. "No time," he replied, glancing over his shoulder. "They're coming." I felt the uncanny sensation of eyes watching me from behind. That familiarity came rushing back. Michael's presence lingering in the air. "Help!" I shouted again, but my voice felt thin against the encroaching dark. Then everything went dark. A flash, blinding and disorienting, struck across the hallway. My heart raced. It sounded like something had exploded behind us. For a moment, I forgot I was running for my life. When the light subsided, I turned and saw Jake frozen in shock. I followed his gaze. That's when I saw it. A figure emerged from the darkness, standing at the edge of the flickering light. It wasn't just one shadow, but a whole group, and they weren't alone. I thought it was over, but this was just the beginning. I turned to flee, but the air around me thickened. Panic clawed at my throat as the figures advanced, their faces almost familiar, yet twisted. "Jake, we have to go!" I shouted, desperation pooling as I felt the shadows closing in. He glanced at the gang of figures that seemed to multiply. "Follow me." He grabbed my wrist, and together we burst through the nearest door, plunging into yet another maze of darkness. My heart thundered in my chest as we ran, the pounding echoing in my ears. "What is happening?" I gasped, breathless from the adrenaline. "Who are they?" "Don't look back, just keep running," he urged, his grip firm. Each step felt like a lifetime. The shadows cast by the flickering lights danced and lunged, their whispers a cacophony that threatened to drown out my thoughts. I could almost hear my name being called amidst their distorted laughter. Ahead, I saw a faint glimmer. Another exit? Without hesitation, Jake yanked me toward it. As we neared, I heard the chaos behind us escalate, their laughter turning into angry shouts, as if they could sense our escape. "Almost there!" Jake shouted, determination fueling his voice. He reached for the door handle, pushing it open into blinding light. My instinct screamed at me to stop, to question what lay beyond, but there wasn't time. We stumbled out into an alley bathed in the harsh glow of a street lamp. The sudden light overwhelmed my senses, and I squinted, glancing back at the dark doorway behind us. The laughter still echoed faintly, but the figures were nowhere to be seen. We were free, for now. I breathed deeply, leaning against the cool brick wall for support. What was that? The question spilled out unbidden, my heart still racing. Jake ran a hand through his hair, glancing warily at the alley. "I don't know, but they're connected to you. Those shadows, they're manifestations of guilt and fear. They want you to confront them." My mind raced. Confront what? The memories surged back. Lisa, Michael, the pendant. "What do I even need to face?" I stammered. Jake's expression hardened. "Your past, the choices you made. You can't just run away from them anymore. They'll find you." The weight of his words settled in my chest. Could it be? The shadows I'd faced, were they echoes of my own regrets? The laughter that haunted me, the feeling of being trapped, could all of it really be manifestations of my own guilt? "There," Jake pointed down the alley, where light flickered at the end. "We can use the main street to get out of here." But as we stepped forward, the moment felt wrong. Instinctively, I turned to look back, my heart clenching. The shadows slowly crept back into focus, watching us from the darkness, their laughter echoing louder, pulling me closer. "Go!" Jake shouted, urgency sparking me into action. We raced toward the light, but chaos surged behind me. Just as I reached the end of the alley, I felt a strong pull, a familiar force enveloping me, dragging me back to confront the truth I'd been running from. I paused, breath hitching as I turned halfway back. "Jake, I can't just leave it behind." "What are you talking about?" His voice was tinged with panic. "My pendant!" The spark of connection coursed through me. "It's more than just a necklace. It's a part of everything." "Not now," he yelled. "We need to focus. We can't afford to get caught." But I could feel the shadows gathering strength in the alley. My heart raced as the whispers beckoned me. I turned to face Jake, my decision made. "I'll be right back. I have to face this." Before he could stop me, I sprinted back, the darkness clawing at my heels. I could hear the laughter again, familiar yet terrifying. It swirled around me as I made my way through the corridor, approaching the shadows that loomed over the room. And there it was, glinting faintly among the debris, my pendant, my connection to everything I had pushed away, lying abandoned on the floor. I snatched it.
It up, feeling an electric jolt run through me. The moment I touched it, everything shifted. The shadows flickered and the figures began to take shape, the faces becoming clearer. "Why did you leave?" they chorused, and the weight of their emotions crashed against me. I felt their pain, their anger, but also their longing. "I didn't want to face it," I cried out, each word breaking free. I was scared. The shadows flickered, revealing memories. Memories of laughter, tears, a once unbreakable bond. Lisa, Michael, faces of love entwined with betrayal. Every moment flooded back, a whirl of emotions I could no longer ignore. Suddenly, I understood. The echoes were not just reasons to be afraid. They were parts of me that needed healing. I had to confront my past if I ever planned to escape this cycle. "I'm sorry," I shouted, my voice ringing through the shadows. "I didn't mean to abandon you." The figures paused, their expressions shifting from anger to something softer, something understanding. A palpable energy filled the air as they stepped closer, the shadows pulsing with light. That was when I felt it, a warmth enveloping me, radiant even amidst the darkness. I took a step forward, my heart racing, but my voice steady. "I'm here. I'm ready to face this. I won't run anymore." In that moment, the shadows responded, swirling around me and lifting, their laughter transforming into something melodic and freeing. The darkness pulled away, revealing the corridor leading back to the glowing light. I felt the energy surge, an acceptance of truths long buried. The warmth strengthened, and I moved forward, laughter on the wind, sounds of joy filling my senses again. Then I heard Jake's voice panicking. "What are you doing? We need to go now." With a final glance at the flickering shadows, I called back to him. "I'm not running anymore. I'll face it." And just like that, I felt myself pulled beyond the threshold of that darkened corridor, back into the alley, where shadows retreated into wisps of memory. I turned to Jake, panting, trying to catch up to reality. "We can go now." He stared in disbelief, scanning my face for some sign of doubt. "Did you really face them?" A sense of clarity washed over me. "It's a work in progress." Together, we stepped out into the dim glow of the streetlights, shadows lingering just out of sight. I felt lighter, but realized the past wouldn't vanish. There would always be questions left unanswered. But I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't be trapped by fear anymore. The echoes of my past would remain in the distance, but they no longer harbored control over me. As we walked away from the old warehouse, I felt a strange sense of relief, that life would never be simple. Yet it held a complicated beauty, and sometimes that was enough.